This is a video on how to install a Takeda intake on a 2013 to 17 Honda Accord. Mine happens to be a manual coupe, but it should work on whatever the website says it's going to work on. Now, when I was looking at this intake, I didn't notice any decent install videos on this thing, so I hope that my video can help you in some way if it sways you to buy this intake. I know I hesitated because of a couple concepts we'll go over that were not very clear to me, but I figured them out, and now here we are with a lovely new intake. So let's jump into this install. Also on the agenda is spark plugs, because it does appear these have never been changed. These are the original NGK spark plugs they have seen somewhere. So we'll begin by taking this cover off. Simply pops off. And then this is the hose in question. Now if you read the instructions, it says you will not be reusing the metal hose, and I always wondered why not. I figured it was going to be like a coolant delete thing. This does have coolant running through the throttle body, but that is not the case. As you see, one of these is indeed connected to the throttle body. However, the other one is connected to the rubber intake hose, which we will not be using. These two hoses are actually connected, like they're welded together. So the reason you're not reusing this metal piece isn't because you're deleting the coolant that's going to the throttle body, but rather because one's connected to the hose here, the air duct, and one's connected to the throttle body. They're not separable, and so you have to kind of get around that. And so we begin by removing all the wiring here. You'll need a Phillips screwdriver for the MAF, the airflow sensor. This wire here, which is I believe your map sensor, is connected by the rubber here. You just pry the rubber back, and then your wiring will pop right out. This is some old ass loom, so I might redo that. It's also here in the air box. Mine was already broken, again, because it's old. Okay, let's unplug the MAF. So then we unplug the MAF just like that. We'll set that up here so it kind of gets out of the way. I think I'm going to take this out now, or at least start loosening them, because trying to hold this and loosen these will be kind of a pain. That's all I need. And then they can like easily come out later. I have one hose clamp here, one hose clamp here. Just gonna be a pain, obviously. It does have a hex head on it too, so if you strip the screwdriver part, you can use a little tiny hex. Alright, well, these are the only pliers I got, so that's the pliers we're gonna use. That's there. We're going to disconnect the hose clamps here too. This being our vacuum hose. And then I need to put a rag under there because it's going to leak coolant everywhere. So this hose goes up under here and it loops back here. I'm actually going to disconnect this wiring just to get it out of the way. And then we'll get our hose clamp off the bottom coolant piece here. There goes the coolant. Oh, we need to get the wiring off that as well. Alright, wiring's off of that. Okay, so there's our coolant, which is now leaking all over the engine bay, which is nice. And then we'll get our other coolant hose out. Okay, that was unnecessarily complicated. I did get this out using my channel locks, and then I flipped it up. It's nigh impossible to get it out of here because this clip won't move. So I'm just going to take the air box off, which you should hopefully know how to do by now if you own one of these. Get our air filter out of here, which was kind of gross. Do that, and we're out. And I lost a bolt somewhere. And then also this will come off at some point here. And off that is. Then this has to come out. This coolant hose needs to come off. More leaking coolant, which is fine. I can clean that up. Now you'll have to remove the battery cable here. All you have to do, there's a little clip here and here. You push towards the engine and then lift up. And now it's nice and out of your way. And then to remove the lower air box, there is one bolt here and one bolt down there, which you will easily see. And these are... the damn wrench would stay there. These are 10 mil bolts. That one's easy. I have a big extension for the bottom one. And with those 2 bolts undone, your airbox simply pops right out. That is not clamped or anything, it just pops out real easy. So I took off my throttle body so you could see where you're going to be connecting the new hose. They supply you with a 5/16 inch hose, which is honestly too long, which is great because I'm going to need some. Because I broke my lower one trying to take the throttle body off. Your new hose is going to go from your one that's closer to the throttle body inlet to this piece here. Your outlet, which is the one further away from your throttle body inlet, is going to go underneath this, and it goes closer to the block down there. And at that point I might as well just clean the throttle body too. Now you also have to take off this little hose right here, the little, I guess you'd call it a reducer. They give you a new hose to replace that with that is the full diameter of this all the way up to your intake, so you're good there. So it really doesn't matter if I destroy this thing trying to take it out. But it's good. Now we've got our little trim here. It just, it's just a little C-channel. You just kind of slide it on there, and that'll keep the intake tube from rubbing. What they call the isolation mount is actually what holds this end down, and then they supply you with a shorter bolt which will go down here. You're supposed to have a battery tie down here, but I guess when I bought the car someone had removed it, so oops, I guess. It is, of course, at this point you want to make sure you have all of your hoses hooked up correctly. My coolant hoses are hooked up correctly. My throttle body is plugged in, but I have not plugged in my vacuum hose yet, so we are going to plug in the vacuum hose really quickly. Now, the big vacuum hose here was actually quite difficult to remove, and it was also equally difficult to put back on with a new hose, so keep that in mind whenever you do this. It's going to take some effort. And now we can reattach that little sensor on the back of the throttle body. Now, as far as assembling the actual intake, it's quite easy. You'll be using 1196 for the Accord, and I think the RDX, and then the TSX has a different coupler. There's that. You have an air filter. You have a hose clamp, which I pre-tightened almost tight enough, so it's not ridiculous. Just pop that on there and give her a tighten. And that's nice and tight. That's not going anywhere. Get our coupler, which will go here. And then this is where our vacuum hose will go. This will go on our rubber isolator here. And then we need to go get our MAF sensor, our mass airflow sensor, to put in here. It's going to be going in that way, so we want this way. Don't want to tighten it down all the way, I just want to tighten it down so it doesn't fall off when I walk over there. Here's our stock airbox. And now remember, we loosened these while it was on the car, so this is super easy. And my MAF sensor seems to be in very, very good shape, so they must have replaced it at some point. So we're good to go there. The intake's going to be sitting in the car this way, and our MAF sensor the wiring was pointed this way. So that's how we're going to put it in there. And so that's attached. I loosely started it because it's getting pretty frustrating. There we are. I'll get this where our isolation mount is. There. Don't forget our vacuum hose. And also our MAF connection, which we put up under here, under the strut bar. And that makes everything. So we got our trim, bolt here, bolt underneath, hose clamp, MAF sensor, connector, screws, all 4 throttle body clamps with the hoses on there, which is 2 hoses. This hose clamp's tight, this hose clamp's tight, sensor, 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 clean the throttle body, vacuum hose, hose clamp, hose clamp. we're good. So we can start the car, hypothetically. So the only thing left to do now is take it for a test ride. The only thing that's been done to this Accord is the intake, and I have disconnected the axle back from the mid-pipe and bolted it off to the side so it wouldn't fall out or scrape. And so, yeah, otherwise it's a stock Accord with an intake. Go. And that was it. That was all there is to it. I don't usually do this type of video. I don't usually feature the Accord in my videos. But if you enjoyed seeing the Accord and you want to see more of the Accord, then let me know in the comments. And I can kind of detour from some Suburban and build videos and maybe do a couple videos on the Accord. And I do want to mod this thing quite a bit as well, because I hear that full bolt-ons and tune, then these things are like a force to be reckoned with. And so I really hope to do that. But anyway, that's all I got for you. So as I say on this channel, as usual, you be good while I'm gone, and I'll see you next time. Have a good week.